Today's problem, I hate my aquascape. This video is the solution, starting with number 1, pull some pieces out.
Yeah, so maybe you were one of those ones that just stacked as much rock as you can. You kind of have this one big wall in the tank. Maybe you just piled a bunch of rock into different islands, in which case, just start by removing some of those pieces, some of those key pieces, and you're opening up some negative space. You're, bringing down some of the bulk to really free up some area, but it could completely change what you're looking at in the tank.
You can do this without removing any of the footprint for corals. In fact, sometimes you can actually, by taking a couple pieces out, you can add, surface area because you get kind of that two-dimensional depth to it. And the reality is the aquascape, especially in the first few years, is visually what you're looking at and most of the artistic or visual interest appeal of the tank. So if you can pull out a couple of pieces, you might intentionally create a little bit of a cove. You might create a negative space between some of the rocks. So go look at your aquascape right now and say, instead of what could I add, what could I take out?
Number 2 is the opposite of that, and considering to add a few new pieces. There's different shapes and sizes and branches and different, the unique structures that you can add to the tank to really throw off or change that dynamic of your aquascape. Branches, I can just kind of shove in random cracks in places here. Now I've got this whole new dynamic to my tank. Rocks that come in different shapes that aren't really naturally made or might be hard for you to make on your own, you can just add a few pieces here. There's bridges, there's little tunnels, all kinds of unique things that you can add in to make it more interesting.
You can even swap out a couple of pieces, but the 2 that you just mentioned there, if there is one thing you heard today, probably let it be this one, which is Carib Seas arches, right? So the rock just does not come that way. You'd have to make it that way, and it's a lot of work. So if you can just buy those arches, you can connect 2 different pieces of your aquascape, create negative space, create swim throughs, create really cool things. And even some of this stuff where, you really want to create that cove, but it was kind of hard to stack. And now, these pieces are already coming that way. So go look at what some of the unique pieces that you could add to the aquascape, not just take away. Number 3, this works really well with the Reef Saver or Marco rock, which is don't be afraid to build your own pieces. Most of us have just thought about, how do I stack all the rock that I was given and, turn it into whatever. But you can actually take the stuff and break it apart. Now, a lot of times people think of that as, I'm going to do one of those unique HNSAs or NSA negative space aquascapes. But it doesn't have to be that. It can actually be that I'm just going to take a hammer and instead of buying a really expensive bridge, I'm just going to take a hammer, break it apart, and use some epoxy to create my own shape. And in that case, I can actually snake it around. I can make it do what I want it to do instead of being reliant on whatever comes in the box. So don't be afraid to take that hammer, break the pieces apart, and then reassemble them into what you want.
Number 4, if you're adding to your aquascape, chances are your rock's already wet, in which case use the right tool for the right job, and super glue is the answer. If you're adding rock to your existing aquascape, super glue cures underwater. It is the strongest, the best adhesive for this purpose, so make sure that you're using it for that. Otherwise, like Ryan just mentioned, I can build my own pieces, my own unique shapes, in which case I'd probably do that outside the tank with epoxy and really get it to hold together and strengthen up and cure, then glue that into the tank.
Number 5, I tried adding stuff. I tried taking stuff out. I tried moving it all around. I still hate my aquascape. Start over. The good thing is the corals will survive inside of that tank. You can build a brand new aquascape when swap the whole thing out. And in this case, really embrace the creative or artistic element of the whole thing. And we talk about it in 2 different ways. There is videos on the HNSA where, this is the my 2 hands. I built this. I'm so proud of it, right? It will take a couple of weekends probably to do, but when you're done with it, it will be the only one on the planet like this, and you'll take great pride in producing it. So it's that breaking apart the rock with the hammer, gluing it back together with the epoxy, and creating something like you probably never even thought was possible in your tank. Now, but what about for everybody else who doesn't want to go through that whole thing? Randy, you could raise your hand. In this case, Carib Sea has got your back. They do it with all of the shapes, the trees, the overhangs we've talking about. Now, if you go and pick those things up, not only are they already done in shapes like that, but they're already purple as well, meaning it will maintain that established tank look that you probably already are accustomed to with your established tank. You can get that thing in there and be really happy with how this whole thing has come together. You don't have to be pissed off at your aquascape. It can be better.
Number 6, if you're already thinking about changing up your aquascape, put rock in the sump today. So that way you can have time to cure before you actually get to adding rock or rebuilding. Even if you were going to rebuild your entire aquascape from scratch, you could easily plumb, a remote system, a trough or something off to the side, build your aquascape, get it in the same water as your tank, and get it cycling, get it going, so that way it's a one-for-one swap when time comes.
Yeah, in some cases we tell you, really, cycling on that rock first isn't a value. In that space, we're telling you that in a brand new tank. This thing's never seen water, never cycled, it doesn't have corals, doesn't have fish in it. Well, just build it dry and then cycle it in the tank or cure it in the tank to do the water change, get all the stuff out afterward. But in this case, if you have a tank already running and you're saying, I hate my scape, well, you can actually get around that by, cycling the rock down in the sump. It will get that biome on it. Or like he said, you could build it dry actually, plumb a horse trough or a big container right into your sump to share some water, cycle that thing while the system's running and do that aquascape swap. Number 7. Do portions at a time. If you're really worried about, protecting the livestock and maintaining the biome in your tank, dude, you could literally do a third at a time. So you could take out some of the rock in there, or build out an aquascape, put it in there, let it cycle, do the next part, and do it in series. Take your time, enjoy the process. But you really want to build something that you're proud of. When you point to it, I made that, isn't it cool? I'm so excited about it. It's not just a lump of rocks. And instead of saying I hate my aquascape, I love it.
Number 8, start researching. Go look at the forums, go look at the groups, go look at Instagram and get some inspiration for the type of aquascape that you want to aim for. Maybe you find a tank that is exactly your size with the same type of corals, and that is something you want to emulate. Emulating is the first step to mastery, and you can find a ton of awesome options out there on all the social medias.
Go find the ones that speak to you and say, I want to create that. That's super cool. During the process, it won't be one for one. You'll take it in your own direction, but what I would do is print them out. While you're doing this project, put them on the wall so you can glance up and say, when I'm looking at this and saying, hey, this isn't going the way I want, you can kind of compare the two and say, oh, that's why. Number 9, skip all of it. Just buy one. You can buy them. People make these things on Instagram. You can find them. You can probably find them on eBay. You can definitely find them at fish stores. Even my first inspiration to create the first NSA actually came from TSA. And the one that Kevin made for me over at Top Shelf Aquatics. So sometimes even the pros need a little bit of inspiration, but right after that, I saw how cool this really was and went to town trying to build more in my garage. This is the future of creating something really unique, but if you don't want to do that, there are people that do this for a living, and you can just buy one.
Number 10, the easiest way to get this done and change your aquascape completely is just upgrade your tank. Maybe it's time. Most of us are on the cusp of upgrading our tanks at any given point in time. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while. You're in a 40 breeder, or you're in a 60-gallon cube. You want to go to that 120 or 200 or what have you. This is probably the time to go ahead and make that decision. And then you could start all over with a new aquascape, one that you put your sweat and tears into, one that you bought, or one that you took some of these lessons from and applied early.
I don't know about you, but on a 1 to 10 scale of should I upgrade, I'm in a constant state of 5 to 10. Something is just always, just needs something to push me over the edge. In fact, I was surprised to find this out, but it turns out that 15% of you guys actually have 5 or more tanks in your house. So it doesn't even mean you needed to shut down the old one. It just means you can set up a new one, some different type, you know, take a different species and use this as an opportunity to create an aquascape, man, that you really love and is part of that next level. It's not just a new tank, it's not just a different type of coral, but I'm practicing different skill sets and mastering this hobby. All right, so what didn't we answer today? Well, before you go rip apart your entire aquascape, there are other elements that matter here. And one of them is flow. There's a better way, and you probably haven't considered most of these things, and they're all right here.